You don't give up the
I turned that on. I just did it.
Oh, thank you. You don't give up the allocation of your family time in order to compensate on the business side. You do it the other way around. And you can, not saying you don't work weekends, you don't work nights. What you do is you're not available 24/7. You have a certain period of time and you compensate someplace else.
That's exactly right. I will work. I say I don't work weekends and evenings to you guys. I don't say that to my clients.
Right.
I show them when I'm available and I direct the schedule in a time that's convenient for me without them really knowing it. So yeah.
Your dialogue on I want to schedule a meeting with you.
I'll just say we need to find a time that works best for both of us, and then I give my times first.
Yeah.
That's how, yeah,
that's a big one for you guys to actually get. You give your times first. Hey, I'm available on Thursday from 12 to 3, anytime within there, and on Saturday morning from 9 to 10.
Exactly. I give them a few options that work for me, and we usually are able to land on one of those so that, but I'll say before that, I want to find a time that works for both of us, blah, blah, blah. And then I tell them what time works for me. And
what do you not say?
Well, I don't say I don't work weekends or evenings, if that's what you meant.
So what I mean is.
Oh, I don't say I'm available 24/7.
Yes. And what works for you? Because what works for them is after work, after dinner, kids are in bed, all the
Unless
kinds of times.
If they tell me anytime Thursday works, or as an example, I'll say what time, then I'll dive in on those. But for the most part, I agree. I don't ask what works for you.
Yeah.
One last thing I'm going to say, and then I am going to go talk to this person, and I hope to be back shortly,
Okay.
Carol, you just said a moment ago, you just got to find the basics, whatever it is, just find it. And that same thing goes with your CRM. Like we say, the best CRM that you have is the one that you're using right now. And that's the same thing. Now, granted, in this class, we want you to use the Buffini CRM, but just having the basic CRM, using the CRM, don't stray away from the CRM. It's your lifeblood. And it's really important. Have a good CRM.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna let you go around the room.
Okay, come back if you can. All right. So feedback, any of you have feedback or questions with what he just talked about? And then we'll go on to other things.
I guess I kind of do. That's related to the CRM piece that he just barely mentioned.
Go ahead.
I know with, our training, we're entering everything into Referral Maker and making that our blood. But with this Moxie coming out, I've used Moxie before, but not for the CRM piece. Is it a real pain to switch CRMs? Or, I know everybody says just go with one and pick it or whatever, but obviously finding the right one may take, trying out a couple different ones. Is it hard to do that, or does it disrupt a lot of stuff that
it's hard to do any kind of switching of anything, but unless you actually at least learn about them, you can't decide what fits you. There's some incredible TV shows that may be great for me. I love and I watch, but they won't fit you. So you kind of sometimes have to just dive in a little bit and do some learning. What I would suggest with Moxie is that you learn it, because it is going to be the system that integrates the company and the brand that you stand for and that you love. I can't imagine that Moxie is not going to be like a system that is filled with things that we've been saying, oh my God, I wish they did this and I wish they did that, because it's been taken from all the feedback from the past systems that we had, and the concerns and complaints that, that's whenever they come out with, any company comes out with a new system, it's always the result of whatever worked and didn't work from the last system. So I would learn it. I would also utilize, for the sake of this class, you're going to be utilizing Referral Maker. And at the same time, if you're learning Moxie, that will be a system that's there whether you use it or not. You just will have to input your information into it. And I think you can upload, if you've uploaded already your database into Referral Maker, I think you can download that to a CSV file and then switch it over. I'm almost positive about that. But that's all good. I don't even know Moxie. It's just being taught. I'm going to learn it along with you guys. So that's my best answer is yes, it's always going to be, for me, there's always a resistance about, oh, I'd rather not even learn something new, but I think you have to look at what's there. I personally had 2 or 3 different CRM systems. I've used all kinds of ones that are provided by NAR, by several different companies. And for me, Referral Maker works the best, just because it's what I've known for 15 something years. And I've actually evolved with it as it's grown. So, and it's intuitive to my brain. So does that answer your question, Brent?
That does, thank you. Yeah, and with the Moxie that I've used before, I can only imagine their CRM is going to be amazing. So
Yeah,
I'm excited to see
Yeah.
what that side looks like.
yeah,
So,
I am too. As much as I love and am comfortable with the one that I am using, I'm also excited to see what other things are offered that will be helpful to my clients. So
absolutely.
So do you
Chris.
mind if I chime in? I'm sorry for
No,
being late here.
this is your class.
I've actually been on Moxie, and I actually like the Buffini stuff a lot better for computing our database and stuff like that. Moxie to me was a little confusing, but I was just learning it before I transferred over to Better Home. So
Okay. What was the difference that you could see for you?
I just think it was just, I don't think it was all that user friendly. And might I tell you, that could be user itself. I figured I always had to go from here to here. And I don't know, I just feel like I'm just a lot easier with this CRM that we're using right now. And that could be just my opinion too, but
Sure.
you know.
No, that's kind of what I'm saying is that I think it's a both and answer. It's not an either or. Either you do this or you do this. I think you find what's comfortable for you. And as far as the database is concerned, I want to have my database in the Better Homes and Gardens system so that that it coordinates with my listings and the things that I do, whether I'm doing it offensively or defensively. So I think it's a both and answer, but thanks for that feedback. And how long have you been doing Referral Maker, Chris? Did you just start when you came here, or were you doing it before?
I've been an agent for 6 months. So I was, the Buffini processes, I just started doing that.
Okay.
And I didn't really use the referral thing in Moxie before because it just annoyed me. So to be honest, but again, that could have been user error too on that, because like with the group that I am with now, there's a lot of helping you out in the process, and it was just me self-learning.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Anybody else? What do you use? Calendar? What challenges do you have around your managing your time with the systems? Okay, let's speak to that. So just tell me, like, what are you using for calendar? Do you feel like you're there? Do we need to give you more training in one direction or another as far as calendars and time management, which we will be giving you as we go along, but I kind of want to take the temperature of where you guys are with that and the things that Tim talked about. John,
Yeah,
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm kind of with Tim. I'm a Google user as well. So the Google Calendar really works for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And do you use the other programs also within it?
I haven't yet.
Docs?
No, just Google so far.
Okay. What are you guys using?
I use
Calendar.
Google as well for calendar. I had, before joining Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate, I also had my own personal Google account. So I keep them separate, but I've been able to set up my calendar. So my personal calendar, I mainly work off that, but I have programmed it so Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate feeds into my personal calendar.
Okay.
So
So
there's
do all of you know that our address, the Better Omaha, is actually Gmail underneath it, and it's Google based? Okay. Because I've had people that said, oh, I didn't even know that I could integrate it into my regular email. So
I have a quick question, Carol.
sure.
Does anyone use Calendly currently, or is anyone tapped into using that? Because I've heard really good things about it and considering using it, and just didn't know if anyone had experience with it.
I do. And I would not, it's not something I recommend for everyday use unless you're really meeting heavy. And I use it in a couple of things, but my coach uses it, and it has a lot of different bells and whistles. But if you have a lot of people that you're interacting with, like a team, and you're scheduling meetings and you're scheduling trainings, or you're scheduling anything for other people, it's a great way to communicate, because it interacts with easily with email and communication. So that's my I don't use it that much. I only use it with some side stuff. So
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else use it? Or any other calendar system that works?
I just have everything combined with my calendar on my iPhone. So I use just the basic iPhone calendar app, but then I sync it with my Google Calendar. I also have like a couple things that run through Yahoo. And I kind of just sync them all together, so I can add it on my phone. I can add it, from my computer when I get an invite. It all just syncs together so I can access it on my phone.
Okay. Allie, you unmuted yourself for a second.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's anyone who uses, other than my mom, who uses a paper calendar and then transfers all of it onto a digital calendar, because I've bought the fun planners and the cool stickers, but I just never actually do it. Never.
I've tried that so many times. I used to like live and die by it, because that's all we had. And if you lost your daytimers, what it was called, little book, that was your Bible. It had everything in it. That was before we had online web accessible. But no, I've tried lately in the last probably 3-4 years, based on some people who actually do, they mirror a physical calendar with their calendar, and it's way too much. It's too bulky, or I forget something. Ben, I saw you shaking your head.
Oh, yeah, because I don't, it's just, I don't know how you jog on the treadmill and make an appointment and try to write it down in a paper calendar and get it all sweaty, and then you go on a bike ride, and you surely can't bring that big thick pile of paper everywhere you go. And so I'd hate to say, I don't know when I can meet you, but let me check in 5 hours when I'm back from the Husker game. So
yeah. Where is the calendar? It's another thing, like, oh my God, where is that? And I think that's like one of the biggest things that I've tried to eliminate, and I would suggest you try to eliminate, is as many things that you have to find as possible. I utilize a lot. I utilize the note app on my phone. My note app is my Bible. I probably have 1,000 entries into my note app, whether it's somebody calls me on the phone and they are a new client, and I'm starting, they're talking to me. I'm not close to a pen or a paper. I just flip it onto my note app and start taking notes in my note app. And then that starts to become the record. And then it flips onto my calendar. So there's so many different ways to, like, if you really were stuck with just your phone, could you do your job? And that's, I can tell you, yes, I could write a contract. I could schedule appointments. I could take notes. I could communicate with people. I could make a referral. I could make a deposit of the money that came in. Just with my phone. And so that's really what you want to get down to, is that you can operate without having to have all these other extensions. Every one of these little things may seem like, why are we talking about this? But all these things answer the question of, how do I manage my time better? Like the one thing that Tim and I just were talking about, the difference between saying, when are you available? And here's when I'm available. Does that work for you? Makes a difference in whether you are that leaf at the mercy of the wind. Wherever the wind goes, that's where the leaf goes, wherever the wind goes. This way you have a hold of you are the wind. So be the wind. That was pretty good. Be the wind in your business. And you're going to get a lot more balance, which if you're not asking for that now, you will be asking for it.
So touching on what you just spoke about Tim first handing out like his available times and whatnot, because I'm a new agent, I've caught myself wanting to ask them like anytime that they're available, anytime that they can meet, anytime that they can talk, because I want to be open to my clients at any time that they're available. So I guess that's something that I'm, struggling with in a way, because, in a couple years, I don't want to always be available. I want to have to do it now. 9 to 5 and So Angelica, that's where I'm kind of torn, because I am so new, so I am very hungry. So I want to be available all the time to them.
So let's pretend like you're not hungry, because I'm a client and I don't know you're hungry. Okay. But what I do know is somebody referred me to you, and that you have value, that you're who I want to do business with, that you're going to work for me. And I need you because you're a realtor and a professional, and I don't want to do this by myself. So that's what I know. I don't know you're hungry. I don't know what your checkbook looks like. I don't know that, that you're 15 minutes from your lights being shut off. I don't know anything about that. Mm-hmm. And I want to meet with you. And I tell you, hey, I want to go look at a house, and you say, oh, great. When do you want to go look at that house? Like whatever that is, you're available to me. You have just set in motion how we do business. Okay. But if you say to me, fantastic, let me look it up. Let me call the agent, make sure it's available. And then I'll see what the status is on it, and let me get right back to you, and we'll set up a time as soon as possible to see the house. Call the agent. The agent says, hey, house just went on the market. We've got 6 showings going tomorrow. They're not looking at offers until tomorrow night, but they could consider something before then. And your calendar is pretty much open, but you've got a few things. You're going to go to your kids' PTA tonight. You call back and say, hey, here's what the agent told me. I have between 4 and 5 today, or we can go in there tomorrow morning. And tomorrow morning I have between 10 and 11. Want to do a time that works for both of us. Does that work for you? Oh, doesn't work for you. What times work for you? And let me check and see if those times are open for me. Okay. Absolutely. Like right away, you have told that person that this is your business, and that you have certain periods of time that you are available in this business. If you are just, one of the worst things that I see agents, some very few anymore, but see agents do, is say, I'm 24/7. I'm always available for you. I'm driving down the street. It's 11 o'clock at night. It's snowing and I'm going to show a house. No, I'm not. I'm not doing that. That's, first of all, you're not going to beat anybody else there because nobody else can get there. It's snowing and it's ice on the road and you're putting everybody at jeopardy. So you've got to do it early on. And the hungry part, keep that to yourself. Because even agents who've been doing this for 10 years.
I do.
No, but I'm just saying, even don't even tell your conscious self, like, that's okay. Like you're the professional, you're going to schedule your calendar, you're going to take a hold of it early on. But I would say you just got to know what your language is going to be. Like write it down so that you're comfortable with it. If you need to practice with somebody, then practice with somebody. Are you on a team, Angelica?
I am, yeah. I'm on Oscar
Barrera. Okay, tell Oscar you want to do some practice with him.
Yeah, he's a great leader. So
yeah,
I know.
Yeah, because I'm sure, Oscar has a nice life. I'm sure he's not, he's not whipped around by his clientele like whenever, yeah. So tell him that you want to do some role play, kind of practice with him on that. But don't worry about being new. Just worry about what you set in place now. You're not going to be able to change. It's like with a little kid, with a 2-year-old. I'll teach them how to what no is when they're 4. No, you're done. Right. So
Carol, that's actually a really good call out. I'm on a team that has Zillow leads, and oftentimes the lead will beat me to the punch and say, well, I want to look at it today. And I want to look at it in 2 hours. And what I've reverted to, and Angelica, you may be able to use this as well, is the house will allow us to look at it during certain times. There may be a seller there. It's going to dictate when we can actually look at it. So let me go back and use the same verbiage that Carol used. We're going to take a look and see when it's actually available to be seen, and then I can come back to you with some times that make sense for both of us.
Yeah, good one. Jacob, what team are you on?
The Compass team.
The Compass team. Okay.
Becky and Jay Morales.
Back to what Jen was talking about on the note app. You can organize all your notes by hashtags. That way it's easier to keep track and look up. So Jennifer, you're talking, but you want to speak to that a little bit? The hashtags in your notes?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're taking notes, if you do it by hashtag, let's say you say hashtag buyer or hashtag copper group or hashtag whatever, you can actually organize and search your notes by those hashtags. So when you're pounding it out and you just drop a hashtag in the bottom of your note, it will organize through that way. That way you're not scrolling through your notes looking for it.
Right.
You can search too. And you just, when you, in the search, you search the hashtag that you're looking for.
In the notes search.
Correct.
In the notes search. And then Jacob added that he also learned today you can scan documents. Yeah, this is a really good feature that they just started, I think, last year. You can scan documents right from the app, the notes app, and it'll save them as a PDF for you. So, and Jen Tucker, yes, PDF scanner is awesome. In a pinch, if you need to upload to email or .loop and send out ASAP. That's another, there's your scanner right there. And did you guys know that the Notes app has a scanner in it that you can just scan from? Is
that Google Notes that you're talking about?
Yeah, it's on your iPhone.
Notes?
Yeah, it's on your iPhone.
Oh, I'm a Samsung person.
Oh, there you go. You probably have something that's a note app.
Well, Google has I use a lot of the Google Note thing for like my personal list, like my Menards list and Costco and everything. It's really cool, but I didn't know. One of the things I have to do is integrate that with my Better Home stuff. So that's my goal, but I think it would work somewhat like that, but I don't know.
Okay, so Stephanie and Colleen said they're dinosaurs. So Stephanie, talk about being a dinosaur and using the paper calendar, and good for you that you can do it. I don't have that kind of mind that I can do two things at the same time and remember. So talk about how you use that, because I know some really, one of them is Stephanie, super successful people who really do this well. I just can't do it well quickly, so I don't want to do it.
Well, for me, I'm in my car usually all the time. I mean, right now I'm at home, but I'm usually in my car and driving. And so having it on speaker and trying to type on it and drive down the road really is probably not all that safe. So I just have my calendar. So I'm able to just like, scribble something down real quick while I'm driving. It doesn't have to be pretty, but then I can, when I get home or get stopped and have a break between appointments, I can sit and then put that into my phone, transfer it. If I were really good, which I'm kind of work on that, I would probably then also get it transferred into my CRM. I do kind of keep track of like who I write notes to, things like that. But I mean, like, this is my calendar.
Up farther. Let's see.
So, I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of crazy.
No, I actually like looking at something like that. I love to be able to look at something like that. My problem is I don't trust that I am putting everything on it.
Right.
So how do you get to that place where you trust that you're actually being loyal to it?
Because I kind of have like a little shorthand kind of thing. So it's like if I know it's like an appointment that's personal, it goes in a color or whatever. It has like a little note in the front of it. So like when I know I've transferred it to my other phone, to my phone calendar, my Google Calendar, I put like a little circle, like a little dot next to it so that everything I know is checked off.
Okay.
So I don't miss it.
Okay.
And then I also go back and I write down all the people that I sent notes to, just because it's nice to refer back, go back to previous months and see, okay, who did I send stuff to or whatever, who did I work with at that time? It just helps me remember to kind of go back and circle back. It's easier than trying to go back through my digital calendar. So anyway,
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I work.
Okay. Great. Anybody else have anything else on that piece of time management and calendars and any other little tips or hints that you're using? Or are any of you feeling like you need some help with that and a little frustrated and it's not working, whatever you're doing? Anybody? Okay, let's go on then, because there's three things that this week's classes were about. And it was time management, the 365 system, and then managing the world's most difficult person. I don't know if we'll get to that one, but let's talk about the 365. Anybody remember what the 365 system is? Anybody?
The layers, was it the layers and the
stacking?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's the stacking effect? What's three things are in that the stacking effect?
Contact, care, and community.
Yep. And in the contact, care, and community, then he broke it down to the several different things that constitute contact, care, and community. For those of you in this class that have been doing this for a while, this is a reminder about the kinds of things that we set aside when we're very, very busy with contracts and listings and the business of the business. So this last, like what Tim said, this last quarter of the year, you get a pass on worrying about the actual transactions, and you really need to step up by 500% contact, care, community. It's the perfect season to do that. The next 3 months, well, we're in the October already, November, December, have so many opportunities for contact, care, and community. And I know I've seen many of you, our team, have been doing like fall festivals and something, dropping off, doing lots of Popeyes, and soon we'll have the pie party. A lot of people are dropping off pumpkins. So are any of you doing any of that pop-by stuff right now? And if so, how are you doing it? Are you doing like 10 at a time? Are you doing like a whole big amount? Are you doing that's for this month? Just talking this month. Next month, the company will be helping to do the pie party. So for those of you that don't know about that, we can talk about that more. But Ben, what are you doing?
Yesterday, because the weather was so nice, I did something that mostly was for my own enjoyment, which was I delivered fall plants by bicycle around Midtown and saw my favorite houses and some of my favorite people, and got exercise, and it was beautiful.
So did you
it's on
stick
my
them in
Instagram right now. You can see it now on
Is
my,
it? Okay. Yeah, because
on my stories and on my Facebook.
Is it, did you use your bike? I mean, your
Yeah.
basket on
Yeah.
your bike? Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. That's
It
fantastic.
was very fun.
So you accomplished several things. So you got some pictures. First of all, you got to go out on a beautiful day and ride your bike. You visited clients that weren't expecting you to be, for them to be blessed that day with somebody dropping by and just giving them a gift for nothing. And you got pictures, you put it on Instagram and you shared it, and you showed that which is kind of your avatar has been just the regular guy out there blessing people with taking care of them, even beyond the house and the cell. So fantastic. How many of those did you do?
16 or 17.
Yeah. Are you doing more, or is that how you're doing your Popeyes now? Like
I'll do a few.
time?
Yeah, I just do a few at a time when I can fit it in.
Yeah, that's what
So
we're
they
doing. We're
kind of
doing,
go all the time.
yeah. We're doing more of the, let's do 10 of these, or let's do 15. And maybe they're the same and maybe they're not the same. Instead of this big, like, okay, here we go. We've got the year we did like, I think 75 pumpkins. That almost killed us. And we had a pumpkin carving contest that went along with it, and people sent the pictures of their pumpkins, and then it was a voting, and then we gave away something, and it was just like, I just rather have something just be the impact to that person, do it, get it over with, you're done, and you go on to the next time you do something like that. But doing a few at a time, I think, has a lot of impact as well. So don't get caught up in the it's too big and I can't do it thing. Even if you have 5 clients, you can do that. So anybody else? What else are you guys doing? Have done this month?
I started with these random, so I do a lot of like woodworking and projects and stuff in my fun times. So I just, over the weekend, I burned a bunch of wood and made these little, like, I don't know, change, like when you walk in the door, you just want to throw your keys and your wallet somewhere. And so I just stained them. And I mean, it was a really quick process, but did a couple with initials of, the people I was going to give them to, and burned them in there and whatever. And just popped by. They're really good friends, and I felt comfortable doing it because it was kind of like, well, is this something that could be feasible? I don't want to like make a side business of, making all these pieces, but something quick and whatever that had a little bit of thought.
Mhm.
And one of my friends cried because she thought it was so awesome. So, and then I got some requests for that for like Christmas gifts. They wanted to do it. So I think I found something that's really easy to do. I've got all the materials and just got to put a little bit of time into it. So it worked for me, but I only did 3, but it was something.
No, 3. You made one of them cry? Jeez.
Yeah, right. She's emotional, but whatever.
I think that's a great thing to do. And you kind of get used to the exercise of actually going to somebody's house and giving them something randomly. But to personalize it like that, that's fantastic. That's really good. I think if you do less amount, but they're more personal or they have more meaning, is better than doing a big, huge amount and it's some little thing that people are going to just throw away or they're not going to have any kind of like relationship to. So keep that in mind also. Who else? Okay, so that's that's in the contact, care and community, which are three things that create this 365 days a year. Those three things, but there's one word that ties all of this together that if we don't concentrate on, and I want you to write this word down because this is probably the most important about making sure that you have the least amount of stress in your brain on where your next business is going to come through, and it's consistency. So little spurts of, okay, I'm going to go do some Popeyes, and then 3 months later they hear from you again. That doesn't work. So smaller spurts consistently of contact, care, and community. So calls, notes, Popeyes. I'm going to read all the things that he's talking about here. So mailings, phone calls, e-reports. I'm going to add text to that. Phone calls / text, whatever you're comfortable with whatever your client's comfortable with. Send a personal note, doing Popeyes, videos, big deal, videos. Videos, you can use them right off your referral maker. I'm not sure if the new Moxie, but it probably does has that same feature where you can do videos to your database right off of the app. I would hope that it would. You can setting up breakfasts, lunches, coffees, cocktails, whatever it is that your client has time availability and where you can connect with them the most. If you do cocktails, make it a very short period of time. Stephanie, you're raising your hand.
Well, one thing that I was just kind of wanting to throw out there is remember, like through COVID, we spent a lot of time doing Zooms with family, friends, whatever. And so that's also another way to have a coffee or cocktails or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the other thing is we all hate how we look on video. I mean, I think we all do. Maybe it's just me, but anyway, just remember, they don't care how you look. They just want to see you. And so when you're doing like a video text to them or whatever, even if it's like, hey guys, just wanted to say happy Wednesday. It's going to be a great one out there, and just take it, record it, and then send it to 15 people. It's funny how many people respond back. So just a thought.
That's a good one. That's a good reminder too. Do you guys remember what Barbara Betts said about video and us hating how we look? You look how you look, you sound how you sound. Nothing you can do about it. You look how you look, you sound how you sound. Just they're not taking you apart the way you take yourself apart. And I think that's what Stephanie is saying is they're just feeling like, oh my God, somebody reached out to me. And you know how many people need to be reached out to? A lot of people need to be reached out to. We assume that everybody has, and particularly this time of year, we assume that everybody has some kind of support system around them. And I can tell you that based on the people that I've reached out to and the responses that I've gotten, when I just take 10 minutes out of my day and do that, there's a lot of lonely people out there. And if you can touch somebody via video, that's great. Or, I mean, text is fine, but video is so much better. Text doesn't have the sincerity in it that video has. So Ben.
And sorry, Carol.
No, go ahead.
I just was going to add 2 ideas of timely touch points. If you want to call someone about it or text or make a Facebook post or do a video and send it out. I mean, you choose how to do it, but a couple very timely things right now for time of year is if you live in Omaha, the free lawn and leaf bag pickup, which is 6 weeks in the spring and 6 weeks in the fall, where you don't have to pay to get your lawn and leaf bags picked up, started Monday. I'm due to make a post that tells everyone, because they don't announce it like real publicly, but
Right.
it's free now for 6 more weeks starting Monday. I might tell all my new homeowners that. Also, we're a little late on that for this 5 weeks ago. Also, as it gets close to being really cold, I will usually do a postcard to everyone, but you can call people or just a smaller amount of homeowners, you know, to remind them to unscrew their garden hoses. If you didn't know, you should never keep a hose connected to your house in the wintertime because it will freeze. And then when you turn on the water in the spring, it will go all over your house. And I've had that happen to clients because they didn't own a house before. So before it gets cold, we can be anticipating we have 2 weeks till you need to. It'd be a courteous thing to start telling everyone, you know, by call, text, or postcard to unscrew their garden hoses. So 2 freebies that are very timely right now.
So I just posted this morning, Max did an ad for us. Did you see it, Ben? I just did it on our stories and then in our on Instagram, and it's the same. It's exactly that. Is that reminding people about the free pickup in the bags with a little picture of it. So something really easy to do. You don't have to send anything out. You can post it on your stories on your Instagram, and see, Don Grimshaw is already on here. That and then Ben, we're actually doing a pop-by with those little covers for the lawn, the sprinkler heads, whatever you call it, the water faucets, the
spigots, the hoses, spigots on the house.
Spigot on the house. Yes, we're doing a pop-by with the covers. And because we, like 50% of our business comes from other states where they are not used to this. And first-time home buyers, they have no idea. So we're doing a pop-by with those things and then with some information on what they need to do with them. So that would also kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You could do a pop-by and educate people. And they're not that expensive. I don't know how much they are, but they're not that expensive. They're just made out of styrofoam and something else. So,
or you can pop by with those lawn and leaf bags. I did that in the spring because I remembered it was coming and got more of a head start, but it's $3 for 6 lawn and leaf bags almost anywhere you go. So it's pretty cheap.
Yeah, exactly. We were going to do that one and we decided to make that just the announcement, and then do the pop-by with those little covers. So there's all kinds of things that you can think of, and they don't really cost that much, and you don't have to do that many people. Just go through. If you sold 5 houses last year or 50 houses last year, go through first, take your first-time home buyers, make sure that you have those taken care of, and then anybody that moved here from another state, because they'll be shocked when winter comes about a lot of things. People like me that moved here from a 72-degree all year long weather, none of those things were even anywhere in my brain. So we all have to learn to kind of think out of the box of what would be valuable to somebody else. And you know what? They will not forget you at all for helping them to not have to suffer through their pipes are frozen. So, okay. So questions, comments, anything in the in these 3 sections, which were huge. And I hope you all watch the videos. Are you guys able to watch your videos? Anybody having any difficulty with that?
Can you share the link again? I was absent last week and missed the last half of there's some clerical stuff I know I've missed. So will you resend instructions for some of that, Carol?
Okay. I think Rhonda sent the instructions, but I'll see what she sent.
I'll look forward to it.
Because it's in your it's up on your site, and it would be for week 3, module 8, 9, and 10.
I had some problems, but I think I think Rhonda got me squared away this morning.
Did she? Okay, good. Good. Yeah, and if you're having any problems, you can always call Rhonda. You can call me, and I'll help you through it. Here comes Rhonda now. So, okay, if there's no more questions, we're gonna take just a 5-minute break. You need to go potty, do whatever you need to do, and then Dawn's already here. Hi, Dawn.
Hi.
Hi, and Dawn's gonna talk to us about inspections, all things inspections, because Dawn's probably overseen maybe 5,000 of them in her career. What do you think, Dawn?
Maybe not quite that many, but a lot.
A lot. A lot. So let's take a 5-minute break and then come right back. It's 2 minutes before 1 right now. So at 5 after or 4 after, jump back on. If you don't need to leave, then don't. I can stay here and hang out. Hey, Rhonda, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Good. So when you send out the instructions for the week for 100 Days to Greatness, you send it out and just say, watch these modules, whatever the number of the modules are. Because we can't forward the modules, right?
I don't believe we can, no.
Yeah, but you just send out the instructions on, and I read them, but Ben was just saying that he was confused about the modules, but I just told him which ones they were for this last week, 8, 9, and 10. So we just went through all of those. Next week's how to be a goal getter. And I think there's only one module for that one. One video. One video. Yeah. I think we're now into the one video ones.
Is that week 4?
Yeah, week 4.
So that's module 11 and 12.
Oh, there are 2. There's 2.
Mm-hmm.
So module 11. Yep, you're right. There's 2. So developing your online. No, it's just module 11 for week 4. Week 5 is module 12. Developing your online strategy. Yeah, there's only one.
I'll take it offline because that's not what I had.
Back to the beginning of the outline and make sure.
So I've got 11 and 12 for next week, and then April Tucker's doing the AMA next week.
That's one of the ones we're putting together. So we're putting together for week 4 and 5. Okay, so you guys know, we're making this 14 weeks into 10, and we're doing week 4 and 5 together next week. I'm gonna write my own self a note about that. Yep. Okay, so week 4 and 5, week 8 and 9, and week 10 and 11. Those are the ones we've done together. Okay, cool.
I gotta go let my dogs in. I'll be right back.
Okay. So Dawn, the 100 Days to Greatness has been 14 weeks, the way that they've designed it. We've taken it, and I actually took it and put all 14 weeks into 10 weeks. So there's a week that was buyer week 1, buyers week 2. And so we put those 2 together. There's sellers week 1, sellers week 2. We put those 2 together. And then we put the how to be a goal getter and then online presence both together. So that makes it's now 10 weeks instead. And then the AMAs, the agents, mentoring agents, this one that you're doing, that is now 10 weeks also.
Nice.
So yeah. I'm going to stop this video, pause this.
Contract, but I have not redone that video. It's been a little crazy busy. So at some point this fall, winter, I do plan on recording that with the information that we have now. So you all have probably been using the new contract. You've been using the addendum that goes along with that. So I guess I'm just curious what questions people have to start off with, and then hopefully that can kind of guide our conversation a little bit. So does anybody have any questions right off the bat?
I do. I have my first inspection tomorrow. So the timing's been great on this. So I guess I want some clarity. So I confirmed with the listing agent, confirmed with my buyer, confirmed with the inspector. But the inspector, when I've been confirming with him, he was like, I don't need you through the whole inspection. So I was just planning to show up at the end with my buyers. But do you typically go to the house and greet the inspector? Or since he kind of requested, I guess I'm trying to figure out where my boundaries are.
Yeah, not unless, I mean, every once in a while you get some weird situation where the inspector doesn't have an e-key or something, and they need you to let them in. But other than that, I do not attend the actual inspection part. I just attend the last hour with my client. There are occasionally some clients who will tell you they want to be present for the entire inspection, which I highly discourage, and most inspectors do not like, but they are paying for the inspection. And if they want to be there the whole time, in that case, you probably should be present. So anytime your buyer is going to be there, you need to be there. Otherwise, they're just going to be in the inspector's way and asking dumb questions and being disruptive. I mean, we love our buyers, but the inspectors are to do a job. They have a checklist that they need to do, and having somebody else there bugging them just slows them down and makes them more apt to miss things. Honestly, I tell my clients, you're actually hurting yourself by being there because you're throwing them out of their normal routine of what they do. And therefore, they're more likely to not catch something that they normally would.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you. I have another question. So also when I watched your video, I know a lot has changed, and then we also just received that recent email from Tom, but even in my contract, I'd put for information only. So I know that's language, we're not to incorporate anymore in our contracts. So I guess other ideas, I know Tom gave us some language in the email he shared with us, but any suggestions in regards to, as I get the opportunity for new contracts and they just want information only, should I just use that language from Tom or other ideas?
You can. I mean, Tom's language was very thorough, probably a little bit more thorough than needed, but Tom always errs on the side of protecting everybody in the transaction. So definitely that's excellent, excellent language. If you're not going to use Tom's language, I personally wouldn't use Tom's language. I have my own kind of language that I use. And when I do it, which I'm not saying it's the right or wrong way, everybody does it differently, but when I do it actually in that section 10, I am very clear in there as far as what I'm doing, and I don't even use that special inspection addendum. In that section 10, I always identify how many days we have to do the inspection, or even better yet, I've already pre-scheduled that inspection with my inspector and will identify a specific date and time that we would like to do that inspection. If it's for informational purposes only, I do use that language, but I go into more detail and say either the buyer will move forward or will release the contract within 24 hours upon acceptance or upon receipt of the inspection report. And then usually I have a conversation with my buyers as far as their comfort level, and I'll specify a dollar amount, either a maximum dollar amount or a minimum dollar amount of things that would cause us to walk away from the contract. I also identify what we're inspecting, if it's a whole house inspection, if it's a major components inspection, if they want, any other inspections included in there. The more buttoned down that language can be, then the more protection that you have for your buyers, and the better your offer looks to a seller, because if you're identifying you're going to get that inspection done in 3 days and somebody else is using the standard 14-day language that's in the contract, obviously that's going to put yours higher than another one because they know they're going to have an answer and a resolution very quickly.
Okay, thank you.
That's great advice, by the way, about being more specific. And Dawn, speak to a little bit that it's okay to use section 10 to itemize all of those things versus
Yeah.
using the.
I love section 10.
I do too.
write a lot of extra stuff
Yeah.
in section 10 because it's our way to clarify the contract. I know that we have addendums that you can send with it, but I think that anytime you add an extra piece of paper that you don't need to, you're just adding extra chances for people to misunderstand what you're trying to do. So I put everything in section 10, even things probably that I don't really need to clarify, I still do because I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. We are not attorneys, so we can't change, big chunks of the contract, but we can certainly add in language to make our offer look better or protect our clients in that section. But you just want to be careful with the language that you use because language does matter.
From the seller's agent side, so now flip your hats. You're the seller's agent. What is it that completely turns the sellers off when you see it? Like, what are the things that you're looking for as the other side of it, the seller's agent on behalf of the sellers?
Yeah, I mean, of course, the fewer inspections somebody's going to have, or no inspection, is obviously the best. But the same thing on the seller side. I mean, we're looking for how long are they asking to do inspections? What inspections are they doing? A lot of times people are not clear about. Sometimes they'll just check the box that, yeah, they want to have inspections, and they don't even have an addendum or any other language in there that identifies what inspections they're going to do or what time frame they're going to do it in. So as a seller's agent, that to me means, unless their offer is just phenomenally higher in price or some other term that we really need, I probably don't want to work with that person because it's a lot of unknowns. I'm more likely to take an offer that has similar terms, but has very clear, known proposals as far as what they plan to do for inspections. And as a listing agent, if I get a contract that's not super, super clear on that already, or even if I do and I don't like their terms, that's part of my counter offer. Is I counter basically the same language that I would put in as the buyer's agent, that they are only requesting a whole house inspection, that they are going to have the inspection done within X number of days. I usually use 7 days, and they have 24 hours to response after the inspection is done to move forward or release the contract, and reiterate that the inspections for informational purposes only, if it is. But even if they ask for repairs, I usually counter that out. In this market, you can typically do that. In a different market, in the 2000 years I've been a realtor, or whatever Carol said, which I'm not that old, but it has been 21 years. So it's been a long time. In every other market that I've ever worked in, it was so common that everybody did inspections, everybody negotiated repairs. Most of the time, you did multiple inspections. It wasn't even just a whole house inspection. Everybody asked for a home warranty. It's just not the market that we're in. And so, unfortunately, even though we want to represent our buyers, and we certainly should represent our buyers to the best of our ability, as a listing agent, you're looking for those offers that have no inspection or inspection for informational purposes only, and you want to clarify that and get those timeframes down as fast as possible.
So how do you, somebody says no inspections and everything else, is there any other stop gaps that we need to look for, or to guarantee that, yeah, they're not going to do an inspection, but they're not going to walk away without it? Like, is there anything else you're looking for from the sellers?
I mean, of course, we would love to have a higher earnest deposit, because if they're not doing inspections, they have no out other than financing. So of course, doing your due diligence, you should also check and make sure their financing is good, of course. I'm sure somebody else has taught about that, but I always make a call to the lender before I accept an offer. So everybody who's submitted an offer with me, I will call their lender. I will ask if income and assets have been verified. I will ask how confident they are that this deal will close. Barring anything crazy with the lending side, then if they have no other contingencies, such as a home inspection contingency, getting a higher earnest deposit, or a non-refundable earnest deposit, even better if somebody will do that, but that's a little harder to get, is the next best thing. So, when I write an offer from a buyer's perspective, if they can do a bigger earnest deposit, it's very little risk to them as long as they do intend to close. And as a listing agent, I very often ask for larger earnest deposits, Years ago, when the market was a little different, I mean, it was very common that you would get like a $500 or $1,000 earnest deposit. And in this market, that is just not going to fly. I mean, agents want a minimum of 1% typically. And I've seen people doing exorbitant earnest deposits to try to help their offers look stronger.
What's a minimum earnest deposit that you would that you're always looking for?
I want at least 1%. So if it's a $300,000 house, I want a $3,000 earnest deposit or more.
We wrote an offer the other day that it was a $400,000 house, and the clients wanted to write a $20,000 earnest deposit. We're like, no. We said, well, we really want them to know that we're serious. It's, well, I think 10 will do. So I was like, they came from the Las Vegas market. And yeah, so if somebody can step up and do that, that's great. But
yeah, in most cases, if they're putting down a big chunk of a down payment, I mean, they're going to be spending that money anyways, as long as they're fully intending on moving forward. It's not really, doesn't cost them anything to do it, and it makes their offer so much stronger.
Even when it was common to have a $500 earnest deposit, and that went on for a long time in the Iowa market. Any of you guys in the Iowa market? Agents over there? That went on for a long time, even beyond what was going on in Nebraska. But even back when the $500, I was like, anybody can walk away from $500. That's like a Costco run when you just went there to get ketchup, you know? So yeah, that I'm so glad to see that we've stepped that game up a little bit, because the market I came from, the earnest deposit was 3%. So 1% is at least, I think that's at least respectable now that we get that. But that's really important on particularly on when somebody says they're not going to do an inspection, is how much money do they really have on the line here, so that you have some kind of protection. So.
And it's good when you talk to the lender. I mean, I always verify the income and assets have been verified to close, but you know, if they're putting money, a bigger earnest deposit down, or sometimes people will be willing to make up an appraisal shortage, you also want to verify with the lender that like they have that cash readily available, that they can perform in that. Lenders are limited in what they can tell you personal information about the buyers, but as far as if those funds have been verified, if you ask that question, they absolutely should be able to answer it. And if those funds have not been verified, that's a good question to ask why.
And what if they say no?
It would seriously hinder the fact whether or not I would accept that offer. So if I have multiple offers to choose from, I'm going to go obviously with the one that has the best qualifications, both from a lender standpoint and an offer standpoint. And then there's a lot of people who just look at the offers and say, okay, this is what I have in hand and this is what I have to work with. We're going to pick the best one out of these. That is not what you need to do. You need to be massaging these offers. So find the one that has the best financing and go back and ask them if they'll pay the highest price, or find the one that has the highest price and go back and say, but I need you to have all this verified with your lender before we'll consider your offer. You can always tweak their offer. And, you know, if you've got one that says, okay, they want to do a full inspection, but they're the highest price, maybe you have another one that's a lower price that is not a full inspection for informational purposes only, or better yet, no inspection, then ask them if they'll come up in price, or ask the other person if they'll get rid of their inspection. Everything is negotiable. So as long as it's ethical and legal, ask all of those questions and see what you can do to get the best offer for your seller, because that's our jobs.
Cool. Speak to other kinds of inspections that somebody would ask for, and whether you'd recommend them or not recommend them, or how do you do that?
Yeah, recommend or not recommend is really hard right now, because normally I would recommend a buyer do every inspection.
Yes.
But you won't get your offer accepted if you do every inspection. So
A lot of that is
a lot of that is going to come down to your buyer's comfort level. So I'm an investor. I buy houses sometimes sight unseen. I buy houses with no inspections. I know what I'm walking into, and I'm okay with that. Like, I understand you have to put money into a house sometimes. Not all buyers feel that way. So there are buyers out there who, if anything goes wrong with that house after closing, they're going to blame you, and it's going to be your fault. So you need to make sure that you have a really, really in-depth conversation with the comfort level of your buyer on what kind of risks they're willing to take. A whole house inspection in theory covers everything, but it doesn't really cover everything. So even if you do a whole house inspection, they aren't going to send a camera down the sewer line to find out if there's roots in that sewer line. That is a very common thing that we have here, and that can be a $5,000 or a $10,000 repair. I've even seen it as much as $15,000 repair. If you're a seller and you see a sewer line scope on there, are you super excited about that? No, you are not. So you have to have that conversation with your buyer, like, how bad do you want this house versus how mad are you going to be if you find out that you have this issue with your sewer line and you have to pay $10,000. So in theory, I would love for every buyer to have a whole house inspection. I would love for them to have a tree root inspection, sewer line inspection. I would love for them to have a radon inspection. But in reality, it's unlikely that you're going to get anything other than a whole house inspection accepted, if even that. There are also mold inspections. Some people are very allergic to mold and very sensitive to that. Every house has mold. A whole house inspector will look for visual evidence of mold, but they're not going to do an actual air quality test. That is a separate inspection. So if that's something that's very concerning for your buyer, they absolutely 100% can ask for that. It is a little bit more costly to do a mold inspection, but at least then they know. But again, as a listing agent, if that offer comes in, I'm probably not going to accept one that has those extra inspections in it. And if you're doing anything with an acreage, and people who don't do acreages a lot, like myself, you have to think about this every single time you run an offer on an acreage. But septic and well are things that can be very expensive repairs. And so it's very, very common, even in this market, a lot of times we still will see septic and well tests done. So make sure if you're ever doing an acreage property that's on a septic or a well, that you're covering those things.
Also boundary.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about surveys.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about surveys.
So typically, it's very common for people to waive that if it's not required by the lender, and most lenders do not require that. I will tell you that if you waive that, your title insurance is not going to cover things that are disputes on the property line or something that's an easement or an encroachment that you didn't know about because you didn't do a survey. That being said, it's a conversation to have with your clients. It's $100 usually, $98 to have that plot plan done. So it's definitely in their best interest. If they are comfortable waiving it, you can waive it. But I'll tell you a little story here. Recently, I just bought a new house in Arizona, and apparently it's not common for them to do surveys there. It was not even a question in our contract. It was not an option my agent gave us. After we closed on it, we went to run a new gas line, and we found out we have a 10-foot easement on the side of our yard that we have permanent structures on. So now we have an issue, which it's fine, whatever. I'm going to deal with it, but that's something I would have known had I had a survey, and it is in our contract, and it is a conversation that you should be having with your clients.
This is a question I was going to ask. Well, let's go back just for 1 second. I want to comment on what you just said. You specifically were talking about the plot plan, $100 on a residential, single family residential kind of home. If it's an acreage, I absolutely would highly, highly recommend that you do a boundary survey. Sometimes the lender will require it, but a lot of acreages are sold for cash. 19 years ago, when I was first in the business, I learned this the hard way. In a 40-acre parcel of land, had a home on it. And there was had nothing to do with me, but we didn't get a survey on the land, and we believed the seller, but did not know about the easement that prevented the new buyer from even getting onto the property. That was from another homeowner, landowner that had a piece of land that sued the seller. And I got, as the agent of the buyer, I got pulled into it, and it was scary. It was very scary. And it was, if I look back on it, there was something more that I could have done. I actually didn't know what to do because I was, within the first year of my business, but always go to the moral of the story. If you're dealing with land and you're not used to dealing with land, go talk to somebody who is used to dealing with land. Talk to your broker, talk to your team leader, but make sure you talk to somebody who's used to dealing with it so that they cover you. Stay in your lane as much as you can. Commercial, talk to somebody who's used to doing commercial. I know that you want to learn those things, but if that's not your shtick, there's a lot of kinds of inspections and things that have to be done or should be done that could put you in a very vulnerable position. So just take that for what it's worth at this point. Always go to somebody else and find out what you need to do to cover your client. So
yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, in that case, you definitely want to have a full survey, not just a plot plan. But for your typical residential neighborhood house, a plot plan is more than sufficient.
Yeah.
So I would definitely recommend, I mean, that's not something that's going to hinder whether or not your offer gets accepted. No seller, in my opinion, gives two craps if you do a survey or not. That's not necessarily going to cost them, unless they know there's a problem. If they know there's a problem, then maybe they'll care if there's a survey or not, but then even more reason that you should do one. So that is definitely something that I think a lot of people, and I've been guilty of this before, and I've run into a couple issues, and I would not do it again, to not have at least a plot plan done.
Shelby's raising her hand.
Sorry, I was trying to figure out how to do that. So I actually had my first official listing go live yesterday and had to take it off the MLS. It was a piece of land because we did a title search on it, and the owners weren't actually the owners of the land. It was a business that had sold the land, but they hadn't completed the payment. And long story short, that was a huge learning process for me. I'm getting into residential real estate, and my first listing is land. And I guess the question I had somebody that's also into residential real estate mentoring me through the process. In the future, going forward with land sales, I guess I really didn't know who I specifically should reach out to, or if there's somebody in our brokerage that specializes in that type of real estate sale.
There are people in the brokerage that do specialize in that. And that's always something that you're going to just, the agents at betteromaha.com.
Yeah.
You just put it out there. I've got a deal coming up in land. I'm not used to dealing with this. Who can help me? And you'll get a ton of people that respond to you. That's one way to do it.
I don't think that that's any more prevalent necessarily in a land sale than it is in any sale. I mean, a lot of even residential real estate, you're going to find out that somebody else, the property's in a trust and somebody else has to sign, or there's some lien out there that you didn't know existed. So the right way to do it, which not very many people do it, would be to go to your title company prior to listing that and having them do a preliminary title search on that parcel of land. And then they can come up with any kind of liens that are against it, who actually owns it, any transfers, any issues. It's a little time consuming to do that on every single listing. So I don't necessarily proactively do that on every single listing, but anything that I have any kind of a question about. I mean, if somebody says something to me when I meet with them that makes me think like, hey, wait, I better check on this and make sure that some other family member doesn't have rights to this, or if I see it's in a trust or I see anything unusual, I always have them do that preliminary title search. So good thing you found out before you actually had a contract on it and we're kind of down the road.
Right.
Oh,
exactly. Yeah.
Are you on a team, Shelby?
No, I'm not on a team. No.
Okay. Yeah. So, always reach out and ask whatever it is that if you are on, you guys are loyal on our email, you'll see, it's a constant, we're helping each other. That's part of who we are as a brokerage, is that we're constantly like trying to help and exchange. And I ask questions, Dawn asks questions of, people, and you'll get an answer, because in our brokerage is every single answer to every question somewhere. You just have to.
Somebody's always dealt with it. And our brokerage is very open to sharing and very collaborative. I'm actually in the middle of a commercial deal with an agent at Berkshire right now, and she told me that when she asked one of their commercial agents for a copy of their commercial contract, he told her no, he wouldn't give it to her because it's only for commercial agents. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, that's somebody in her own brokerage that told her that. I was like, here, you'd ask for it. Like 10 people would be like, here, I've got one.
If this is the
That's good
first
to know
brokerage, if this is the first brokerage that you guys have worked for, this is not how it is at every brokerage.
Yeah.
Like there are a lot of agents who are really good at what they do, might not be willing to share how they do what they do. That's the whole purpose behind what we've been doing for almost 5 years with agents teaching agents. That is actually what it is we're sharing and teaching. And if we don't have the sources for that, I'll go outside and bring all these other agents in who are talking to us in our ATAs. So
what was so I know I have the Facebook group, like to ask questions, but what was the other resource that you mentioned to ask questions? Like if I have questions?
Our email, if you want to send a group email to all of our agents, it's agents@betteromaha.com. And that goes to everybody in the company. And you'll get more answers than you want. You'll have to say stop.
Okay.
Guys, but stop.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Dawn, Colleen asked the question, it was going to be my next question to you. How do you feel about pre-inspections for sellers?
So I have a maybe unpopular view on those. So a lot of people are very, very pro pre-inspections. And actually, honestly, if I have the buyer, I love if it's been pre-inspected. I do, honestly. I mean, please pre-inspect your listings for me. Because then that just makes, I mean, as long as it's a company that I would use, then it makes us more comfortable writing the offer without inspection. From a listing standpoint, I would never, unless it's some very unusual circumstances with a property that I know is going to have something substantial that we need to disclose, recommend that somebody do a pre-inspection, just because so much of our market is selling with no inspection or with inspection for informational purposes only. If we go into a pre-inspection situation, not only has my seller paid for that pre-inspection, but now they're obligated to either disclose or repair, or both, disclose and repair all of the items that they have found on that inspection. So it ends up possibly opening up a can of worms that did not need to be opened up. So, you know, everybody runs their business differently. There are a lot of fabulous agents that pre-inspect all of their listings, and I have the utmost respect for that decision, but I cannot in good conscience tell my clients to, as a listing agent, pre-inspect their listing right now with the market that we're in. In a different market, it made more sense. In the market that we're in, it just doesn't make sense.
Okay. That buzzing noise, or is that just on my side?
No, sorry, that's my phone. It's vibrating.
Okay.
And so Dawn, with that said then, so if you have your property or if your client has their property pre-inspected, then anything that comes up on that, why wouldn't they just, I mean, they're obligated to fix it and disclose it. So they would just fix it before the listing, right?
Well, yeah, but then they fix things that they wouldn't have needed to fix. If we get an offer with no inspection, then that buyer's buying it, you know, as is. We didn't.
And that's what I just wanted to confirm. I'm not fighting you on that at all. They're spending money they wouldn't have to spend.
Right. So they're spending the money for the inspection, and then they're also spending money on repairs or having to disclose things if they aren't repairing that, that could determine whether or not a buyer. It opens up a can of worms that if they don't know, they don't know. But once they know, then now we have to do something about it. So there are circumstances, like I said, if it's a house that really needs one for some reason, but so many buyers, I mean, even houses that are really, really rough right now, some investor will come buy it without an inspection. You know, they're just, anything will sell right now. And so, you know, anything that you can do to protect your seller, but then, you know, it's totally different which side you're on. I mean, if you're trying to protect your seller versus if you're trying to protect your buyer.
Right. Okay, thanks.
I'm not really the opposite opinion than Dawn. We just practice it a little bit differently. We do pre-inspections, but not on every single. And I kind of the opposite of when Dawn decides to do a pre-inspection. We actually don't do a pre-inspection when we know that there are issues that we know the house is going to sell without them doing anything about it, or it's in a trust or something, and we're pricing it accordingly. We don't, but for us, in our model, we do pre-inspections. We pay for the pre-inspection to be done if the client wants it done. We don't ask them for the money back. We don't say, if you don't go through with this, we just don't do that. We also don't cut our commissions. We come out with the value that we do at the very beginning. We do pre-inspections. We pay for highly professional pictures. We will have a stager come in and do a consultation with you. We put our money on the table before we ask you to put our money on the table, and that's the model that we go by, and it works for us. But we don't do pre-inspections on every single home. But if I flip the other coin and I'm from representing a buyer, I freaking love pre-inspections. I love when we look at it, and I don't have to say, we don't have to say, we think the house looks good. It's a 5-year-old HVAC. It's a this, it's a that. And I hate this whole market of no inspections, because I know that a lot of this stuff is going to come back. It's already come back to a lot of agents. A lot of different marketplaces, they're dealing with more lawsuits than transactions now from this whole, we're not inspecting, we're paying more, we're, all of that. And it's just how far down the road do we kick the can? So I don't disagree with Dawn whatsoever. In fact, I'm actually 100% on that side. We just use ours in a way for marketing. And it seems it works for us, but you've got to do what is going to be comfortable for you overall, as well as individually on each listing that you do. But I will tell you that one thing that you have got to go by, and this is really important, what Dawn talked about in section 10, is make sure you are writing everything out. If this, then that. If not this, then this. This is how many days, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to do if we don't do that, and this is what's going to happen if that happens. That is the most important, because you do not want to have to go to court and defend yourself based on something that you did or didn't do that you could have very easily done. And inspections is where it gets the choppiest. So
See, there you have it. Two very, very, very experienced agents with different opinions on pre-inspections. Everybody runs their business totally different. And there's one particular agent at our company that we actually work for, one of the same referral sources, and he is very pro pre-inspections, and I am very not pro pre-inspections, although I always present all options to my clients. You always want to present all options. Yeah. And then explain the pros and cons of that. And I think, beat him sometimes, because they like the fact that I'm saying that you don't need to do this up front, and you don't need to have these disclosure issues and this risk up front. But I'm sure he beats me sometimes, because somebody's like, yeah, I feel warm and fuzzy about that, and I want to present my house in the best light to a buyer, and this chance of deals falling apart later. So it's all very agent specific how we run our businesses, and you can choose what path you want to go on. And it's also very client specific as far as what's going to appeal to the client that you're working with.
I think Dawn and I might be even saying a lot of the same thing, because in the conversations that we have with our clients, we tell them that this is a choice. But interestingly, in the first part of our conversations, when we say these are things that we're willing to pay for up front, and the pre-inspection is in there, it really, like, something about that makes people want to talk to us more. And a lot of times, I'd say 60%, 70% of the time, we don't end up doing a pre-inspection, because after we've had a conversation about the house and all the both sides of that, they say, no, I'd rather not. Let's just wait and see what a buyer would say. So, it can work both ways for you. But the main point, and I think Dawn's making this point, is you don't influence the client. You just give them the choices and be ready to take responsibility for whichever choice that they make.
Yeah, and a lot of that is going to happen in an in-person conversation. But to Carol's point, with lawsuits and future issues maybe coming up, it's always good if you follow that up with an email or a text message, or do something in writing, just saying, hey, we had this conversation about inspections and you agreed that this is how you wanted to proceed. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page before I write this up, so that way, you don't run into them saying, well, my agent told me I couldn't have an inspection.
Right. You don't ever want to hear that come out of a client's mouth. Ever, ever, ever.
And that was
Sarah.
one more question I had to follow up with, is the lawsuits. I mean, I know they could probably range, but I mean, what are you seeing most with the lawsuits? Just, hey, my agent told me to put in a bid, but not do an inspection, and that's what got me the house, but it's got me this mess, things like that? Or are they suing for the issues with the house that they're finding after?
What I've seen is more people are suing over the issues they found with the house after, like it wasn't a disclosure issue, it wasn't disclosed properly. So it's not necessarily that they're suing us, although I'm sure there is cases out there where they have sued the agent directly, but it's usually they're suing the other party in the transaction. But us as realtors representing those clients get pulled into that lawsuit as well. And then they're going to examine everything that you said and you did, along with, because the seller's agent and their lawyer is going to try to prove that it's not the seller's fault you didn't have an inspection. Whose fault is it you didn't have an inspection? It's your fault as the buyer, and it's your fault as the buyer's agent, and that you accepted that property as is. And so, everybody's going to try to pass blame, and unfortunately, we'll get drawn into it.
It's
Dawn,
usually.
do you ever use the document in .loop? I think it's for your protection. So it's about an inspection, so that you give it to your buyer, sign. If they say no, you have the conversation about inspections, and they say no, I want to go forward with an offer without an inspection, and then I'll have them sign that to say yes, we had that conversation, so that if down the road something would happen, at least I've covered that because I have their signature on that. I don't know if you or Carol have ever used that or something similar.
Yes, that's very smart, and that's a good point to bring up.
Yeah, and I have used it. I don't use it in every single case, and probably to protect your, you should, but I do try to make sure I have something in writing, some kind of documentation, an email or a text message that says, hey, we had this conversation and this is what we agreed that we were going to do. And usually, not always, but usually, we can get an inspection, at least for informational purposes only. There are rare occasions where we do have to waive the inspection entirely. And especially if it's like a counteroffer situation, maybe we wrote an offer for inspection for informational purposes only, and they had other offers without, and they're asking us if we're willing to remove that. That's a good idea to make sure that you have all that documented.
Always document, particularly when anything gets on a little bit of a rough road. Colleen, to go further on your question, just a little bit about what people sue over. It's not always suits. It can be complaints. It can be complaints to the commission. It could be pre-suits. It could be complaints to your broker. Agents will make complaints about other agents that'll go to the broker and then to the commission. It's when a client, it's generally when a client, it's going to cost them money for some reason. And that's why it's so important that you don't just, put all this stuff together and get in a hurry to get your house on your client's house on the market, and then get their SPCD, their seller's property disclosure. Because you really should review and look at what the property disclosure said, because that's 99% of the time when a buyer sues a seller, and it's because they didn't disclose something. You go back to the disclosure and you say, yeah, they're right. They didn't disclose that, they had their roof replaced because there was a storm, and they were, that very seldom do I ever see, I don't often see things really written out in that last section of the seller's property disclosure that I have questions about. Maybe it's a checkbox or maybe it's something, and that's up to us to make sure that is thorough, and that is what the seller thinks they know about the house. So I think that we need to stop, take a breath, and actually really do do our jobs, particularly with sellers. Because we get really excited about getting that house on the market. Like, oh my God, I got a listing and get the house on the market. We're focusing on like all the marketing stuff, but that listing agreement and all those documents need to be really buttoned up, because down the road, you're not gonna like it if they're not. Sarah, you were raising your hand.
Yeah, thank you. So going back to some of this pre-inspection, when I was working with my buyers, we went to a house that had a pre-inspection, but then also had a note on it then like as is, like they weren't going to do any fixes to it. So I guess what I was hearing was, what I wrote down in my notes, was, the pre-inspection, then the seller's obligated to disclose, but then also could be obligated to fix. But if they put as is, they
not obligated to fix necessarily, in the sense that like we're disclosing now that there's these problems, and it can hinder whether or not a buyer wants to write an offer on that house based on whether or not they made those repairs. So as a listing agent in a different market, if I were going to have a pre-inspection, I would say, okay, you've got to fix all this stuff now because nobody's going to buy your house otherwise. Now we have to tell them all this. In this market, you could put the inspection out and you could say, well, hey, here's the things that we found, but we're not going to fix it. Tough dookie. But would that eliminate 5 buyers that may have written an offer because of something on there that you're not willing to fix that now you've told them is wrong with your property? Possibly. So it would put them in a bad position. So they either would have to fix it, or they have to say, no, these things are wrong with my property and I'm not going to fix it, and take the chance of people not wanting to buy it.
Okay. And I think when a pre-inspection, I know buyers will, with no information, they think everything is wrong or something really big. With information, they are more willing to accept and are more okay with knowing what's wrong than not knowing and imagining that it's bigger than it is. So I don't know too many buyers that we've recently dealt with who've seen a pre-inspection that scared them off. But that's not to say that would not happen. And if it was a really shitty pre-inspection, we bought a house, a flip house that we were working on, and the pre-inspection was done. When we got into flipping the house, there was so freaking much more that had to be done. We thought it was going to cost like $30,000 to flip this house. It ended up costing almost $60,000, because what this pre-inspection showed had, I would say, 20% to do with what was really needed to be done with the house. So there's that side of it too. What's the value of the pre-inspection? I guess it's something versus nothing, but it's not a perfected system either way.
No, and that's kind of, what's the value of a whole house inspection? It's the same thing. The inspection's only as good as the inspector you hire and what he saw on that particular day. They can't look behind walls. They can't look inside a furnace. They'll tell you if the furnace is old, they'll tell you if it's working right now, but they can't tell you if there's a cracked heat exchanger. You have to have an HVAC company come out and do that. There's so many things that a home inspection is good for, but there's so many other things that they're not going to catch.
It's impossible. It's impossible to catch it all. We just had a buyer walk away from a deal that's supposed to close in a week, and because the appraiser, it was a conventional loan, but it was the appraiser came in, called out, said there's movement that they see. They needed to have a structural or an inspection done of the foundation. The foundation person inspected it, and all of the blocks in the foundation are all crumbling. We never would have known that from the inspection that was done.
How did the appraiser catch it and not the inspector? That's crazy.
I know. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. So who knows? When something like that is going to happen, there may be some things that they see or not see. There might be water pipes that are ready to burst, but they don't burst until after when winter comes, and there's so many things that I think you can do what you can do and prepare your clients as best as possible, like Dawn said, to kind of have at least a little bit of an investor's mind that houses are going to cost you some money to.
Well, and it's good to, and it's hard maybe when you're newer to educate people on all of the benefits of home ownership, just because, you're like, well, but there's things wrong with the house. Well, yeah, there's things wrong with the house. I mean, like, no house is going to be perfect. It doesn't matter. A new construction house, if you have a really good home inspector go through there, they're going to find things wrong with that brand new construction house that nobody's ever lived in. No house is perfect. And so, yeah, when you're renting, you've got a landlord that you call if you have a problem, and the landlord has to fix it, and it's not your problem. But your landlord's getting the equity. You're buying a house for your landlord. Right now, with the inflationary market that we're going into, I mean, prices are going up significantly. It's only a matter of time before interest rates go up. So you're willing to pay $20,000 more for that house, but you're not willing to fix a $5,000 thing that needs to be fixed. It just doesn't make sense. So you kind of have to logically explain to them, this is an investment. There's going to be things that are wrong with it. You're going to have to fix things, but look at it a year from now and it's worth 20% more, and you locked into this 4% or 3% or 2.5%, whatever the really low interest rate is that they get that day. They're gonna be really happy they own that house when rates are at 6% and the house is worth $100,000 more. So you kind of have to put the big picture in front of them and really educate them. Sometimes they get so tied up. Sometimes it's a $500 thing. They're like, I'm not gonna buy that house because it needs whatever that costs $500. And are you kidding? They want to take the washer and dryer. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly. Getting caught up with the small stuff. That's why I try to keep any kind of negotiation about any of the items, the refrigerator, the kitchen table, whatever it is, outside of the contract, because that will cause more pain on a $300,000 house than the actual transaction. So last question, Dawn, do you call for an inspection on a new construction home that your clients have built?
That's a conversation I have with my clients. Of course, it's always their comfort level. I would say traditionally, 99% of the time, no, we do not have a home inspection on new construction. Most new construction builders have a 1-year warranty. If somebody wants a home inspection, I actually recommend that they wait and do it at month 11. Because with that 12-month warranty, then that's their opportunity to have a punch list for the builder to come back one more time and fix things. And things sometimes don't happen before construction, but maybe they happen right after you move in, or maybe there's things that develop that you wouldn't have anticipated develop, and you want to make sure you have everything on that punch list for that 11-month walkthrough. So if somebody wants that, I would say wait.
Yeah. Okay. Super. Anybody have any last questions? We're at our time. This went really super fast. Thank you so much, Dawn. That was
it's my pleasure.
Fantastic. And as you guys know, this could be a 10-hour conversation, and it will continue to go on. But remember to reach out to us, to the other agents, your team leader, brokers, anybody, anybody. And Dawn is always somebody that will help you and explain things, and really. She's got a trainer's mind and heart. So
I know you all have fabulous mentors, but I'm always happy to answer any questions.
Yes, and your mentors are there for you. But your mentors have people that they have mentors. So the chain is big. There's a lot of people to draw from. Somebody's going to have your answer for you, or we'll find it. So any last questions, comments? Thank you guys for showing up and paying attention for 2 hours. I know this is not the easiest thing, but we want you to be the best you can be. And I'm always available to talk or ask questions, answer questions, whatever you need to. So thanks so much. You guys have a great week. And hopefully you show up tomorrow for ATA, for Agents Teaching Agents. It's going to be Josh Forster. And Josh wrote a book called Discovering Why You Do What You Do. And now he's going to tie that in with what that means to how you put your business out there, and how you can best let other people know your why, and maybe align with other people's why, and build your business. So Anyway, that's it. And we'll see you later. Bye, guys. Thanks, Dawn.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's good to meet y'all.